Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank you to our esteemed panel for coming before this subcommittee to discuss this important issue of our nation's debt, which now stands at an outrageous $19 trillion. For Congress, the debt ceiling should be an important and necessary tool to look back on our spending policies in order to find ways to cut this massive federal government. Instead, this administration has used the debt ceiling as simply a blank check and a political attack vehicle. The American people are tired of the dysfunction in Washington and tired of their elected officials and leaders failing to get things done. And cutting our out-of-control and irresponsible debt is something the American people want done. In 2013, when I and a number of my House colleagues had the privilege of going to the White House to negotiate in very good faith with the President on the debt ceiling, he decided to use the opportunity to lecture and pontificate, not negotiate, and I was there. He used dramatic rhetoric, such as not wanting to, quote, negotiate with a gun pointed at their heads, and used the press then to paint House Republicans as unwilling to talk and address the people's concern about our fiscally, as you all have stated, unsustainable, and I think, as a mother of three, immoral debt. Now, with these new revelations, and frankly, that's what we're here to discuss, Mr. Chairman, these revelations produced by this committee, it is clear that the administration manufactured and hyped up the crisis in order to prevent, I think, Republicans and Congress, who are committed to slashing our debt, from enacting smart and responsible fiscal policy. Knowing now that the administration was capable of prioritizing debt payments and actually running tabletop exercises after reaching the debt limit, do you find the administration's statements to the contrary disingenuous? Ms. DeRoger.
I mean, it's politics, so I guess I'm not surprised. But
I think it's politics, too. So you do believe that the administration had political motivations for making these misleading statements?
I think the document makes it pretty clear, but one of the things that's also important is to actually not lose sight of why we're talking about prioritization, right? Why do you want to prioritize payment? It's like so all of you can actually find a way out of the debt mess, especially the explosion going forward. Not paying some of our obligations just for the sake of not paying some of our obligations. The idea is a productive process that will lead to fundamental reform, an agreement among you to actually lead to a compromise, to finding a way out of, honestly, putting a gigantic burden on our children.
I agree. And Ms. Bochia, shouldn't the public and Congress have the right to know that the administration has made these, quote, contingency plans?
I think that the debt limit presents a game of chicken in which it's in the executive's interest not to reveal key information like this committee just revealed yesterday in order to leverage this to force Congress into just raising the debt limit, which Congress has complied with numerous times. I'm very concerned that, in fact, we do not have a debt limit at this point. We have a debt limit suspension.
It's a blank check.
There's no limit on borrowing. That's right.
And it's outrageous, and it's immoral as far as I'm concerned. Ms. Bochia, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Did the administration's choice to I believe, play politics by withholding information about the administration's ability to make payments on the debt create unnecessary uncertainty in the markets?
Because Congress hasn't been able to give guidance to the administration how to act at the debt limit, the administration does have the leverage to refuse to pay our debt obligations. And putting that risk out there to use as political leverage, I think, is very dangerous because it reduces investor confidence. However, we had numerous rating agencies, in particular Moody's and Fitch, say they did expect the Treasury to honor its obligations to the United States debt holders.
And quickly, in my time is left, Dr. Mitchell, Oftentimes, we see yields on short-term treasuries spike during these debt ceiling negotiations, which increase the cost of borrowing for the federal government. Is it possible the Treasury's decision to withhold information on making debt prioritization payments ended up costing the government more money?
If you look at the GAO report from July 2015, they estimate that tens of millions of dollars of additional interest costs resulted from the administration's lack of forthcomingness,
Tens
honesty.
of millions of dollars, because this administration told me, and I was there, this president, that he wouldn't negotiate when we had a gun to their heads, and he cost this country and the taxpayers and the people tens of millions of dollars. I thank you, and I yield back, and I appreciate your indulgence.